Welcome! So this is my contest entry for a channel that I don't know how long it's been going, but I've only recently started subscribing, and it's really entertaining. And he's running a contest that ends on the 13th of August, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to try and find some time to enter this, not just because I'm interested in the prizes, but also because I do like to do these contests from time to time. They're a good way of me just to show, usually music that I have shown before, but what maybe a lot of subscribers of mine won't have seen. And it's just a good way to support a new channel that I'm subscribing to. New for me anyway. The channel I'm talking about is run by a nice chap in America, TC Kirkham, of the Kirkham Report. And I discovered his channel via Richard McCook and his contest entry for TC. This contest, as I say, ends on the 13th of August, so if you're interested in entering this, right at the top of the description text box there's a link to TC's original giveaway announcement video. There he gives all the information, and I'll try and recap that as best as I can remember it anyway. But if you're going to enter this contest, you need to make a video, like I'm doing, and let TC know in the comments there that you've done so. And also, if you could mention that you found his channel via me, that would mean that I would get an extra contest entry myself. So there is bonus entries up for grabs. So if you're interested, if you could do that, that would help me out a little bit as well. The prizes, I think it's for the two runners up, they get $25 gift card from Amazon or Visa, and the top prize is $50 Amazon or Visa credit. However, in a video that at the time of me recording, it was his most recent video, TC did say that if he can get up to 300 subscribers before August the 13th, the closing date, and he's well past 200 now, because this was originally his Road to 200 thing, but if he can get to 300, then he will double the top prize to $100. Nice. And I think he's going to do that really easy. In fact, he might have even passed 300 by the time you're watching this video from me. But nevertheless, he's still running the contest till that particular date, and the prize may well be doubled by the time you're watching this. So the top prize, I should say. Please show him some support and give him a sub. Now we'll get on with the contest itself, or my entry for it. So what TC has asked people to do is make a video showing 10 musical releases that you think are really obscure and that you are fairly certain no one else in the vinyl community owns. This can be pretty much anything, but TC did say he'd like people to limit it to no more than 2 different formats, which is fair enough. And the formats I've chosen 5 7-inch singles and 5 mini-disc albums. So I know TC says you can choose, you know, CD, tape, LPs, singles, blah blah blah, but as long as you try and stick to no more than 2 formats, and also just make it kind of equal, sort of like either 5 and 5 or 4 and 6, etc. So I've got 5 and 5 here, and I think I'm going to alternate them. Right, so I hope I've explained the contest. As I say, please click on the link, give TC a sub, and watch that contest announcement video, because he'll explain it all anyway. But this is my entry here. First thing I'm going to show you is a 7-inch single. Technically it will be classed as 7-inch EP. It's from, I think, the late 60s, and it's an interesting one, this. It's one of the first things that I got into my vinyl collection when I started collecting vinyl again back in 2019, and simply because this is something that used to belong to my dad, and when I was clearing out a lot of my dad's old records and stuff, then looking at buying my own record player, this was something that just caught my eye, and I listened to it when I'd got my first record player, and I thought, yeah, that's really good, that I'm definitely keeping it. And it's this EP from the French singer Francois Hardy. Although I don't know if this is really obscure. I think for certainly British people this would be classed as obscuria, as TC likes to call it. But perhaps if you're French, this will be quite a common item. I don't think this EP's got a particular name, but it is 4 tracks. I would class it as an extended player. Track 1 is Des Boîtes Rouges de Russie. Track 2, Il Voyage. Track 3, Le Bleu. And track 4, Au fil des nuits et des journées. And I'm sorry that I'm butchering the beautiful French language there. and I feel ashamed of myself because I should really be better at that, given I did French for GCSE. It's got a nice back there which showed you some Francois Hardy, presumably their albums, but there could be more singles there as well. It's got a lovely voice, and what I also like about this, which is obviously unique to this particular copy, is that this was actually a gift to my dad from an old French pen pal he had in the late 60s, and she's written a little note there. She's Marie Thiez. So I thought that was quite a nice thing. You know, I'm not normally a fan of people writing on record sleeves, but that just kind of, I don't know, it's just something about that, and I didn't pay for this anyway, so I thought that was quite a nice thing. I do like this Vogue record label logo as well. I don't know, it just screams France to me, this, and a kind of 1960s France as well. You know, I think France was becoming quite cool in a way that England, and particularly London, you know, with Carnaby Street and things like that, and the Beatles was becoming in the late 60s. This is in a nice condition, not really much to see in the way of the disc, but it has got a nice pink and white centre label. So my first pick for my Obscuria is the Francois Hardy EP. Moving over to Minidisc now, and this actual album is certainly not rare, and there's going to be a lot of people in the VC who own the album. I would lay £1 any day that Rob Walker has certainly got this album, and no doubt one or two others who are sub to here on YouTube. But this, I mean, this is something I've shown at least a couple of times in older videos, but this is, I still think, my rarest mini-disc in my collection, because by all accounts this never even officially came out. It's an official pressing, it's an official release in the fact that it's, you know, not a bootleg. There's just so few copies of this, and I still think it was a miracle that I actually managed to lay my hands on it. It's the Stone Roses debut album, which would be from, what was it, 1988 or 89? I do apologise that my dates are going to be a bit rusty. It has got some copyright dates on here, but they're to be ignored really, as I think they're mainly focusing on when this mini-disc supposedly came out in 1992. It's on Silvertone Records. Brilliant album. Shame Second Coming, the follow-up, some years later, wasn't half as good. But there you can see is a proper official Sony pressing plant mini-disc there. I always forget exactly how much I paid for this. I could look it up. It'd be somewhere back in all my Discog orders. This was expensive, and I've only seen it come up once. I got it somehow, probably just more by luck than anything. It's got some absolutely amazing stuff on it, such as I Want to Be Adored, She Bangs the Drum, Waterfall, I Am the Resurrection, Made of Stone. You know, it's the Stone Roses, the Stone Roses. It's an absolute classic of its era. Just for simply how much like gold dust this is. I mean, this is really kind of a holy grail for a lot of mini-disc collectors, particularly, and, you know, presumably a lot of hardcore Stone Roses collectors too. But the Stone Roses self-titled debut album on mini-disc. So my third pick is a single that it would never have reached the top 100, made in limited quantities, I think. I always like the sleeve for this because it's got a kind of 1960s vibe to it. You can't really call it a picture sleeve, but it's certainly very interesting. It's another EP actually, I just remembered. It's the Old School for Scoundrels EP by the Cuban Boys. The Cuban Boys, they were technically a duo for the most part. They did evolve into a trio for a time as well. Just a kind of techno-pop dance band out of Wales. They made it big, or big-ish, certainly in a more alternative sense in the late 90s, because they were heavily championed by Radio 1 DJ John Peel. I do like that it has this little info card in there as well. Their biggest hit, which I do have on 12-inch single, but it's not something that's a rarity by any stretch, was when they attempted to get the Christmas #1 in 1999, with Cognoscenti versus Intelligentsia. This will have come out after C versus I, certainly. But side A has Theme for Prim and Proper, Flossie's Alarming Clock, and side B has 10 Happy Fingers, which is my favourite track on the EP, and Open the Door Richard. They've all got like samples of sort of classic British movies and things on. Oh, what's the movie studio? Ealing, I think it is, isn't it? Like, they're quite fond of using Ealing samples at this point anyway. I love the Cuban boys. I wish their album, their one real studio album, they've released kind of compilations and limited edition things, but they only really ever released one studio album, Eastwood, in I think early 2000. I wish that would get a vinyl pressing, because I would like to own that on vinyl. But there we are, Cuban boys with the Old School for Scoundrels EP. Pick number 4 is there again, like the Stone Roses. It's on Minidisc, and it's not an album that would be considered rare for anyone, but I've picked it for this because I think out of my entire collection of this band on this particular format is probably the rarest of the lot. It's one I've not seen around, and it's quite an interesting time to show this because this actual album is celebrating its it's going to be its 25th anniversary, I think, this year. I'm trying to work out if I've got that right. Yeah, 25th anniversary, and it's been reissued in a load of formats. It's been reissued on silver vinyl, even a new limited edition cassette, a picture disc. They're bringing out a whole load of new merchandise. But one format that's definitely not been reissued on is Minidisc. I'm talking about Oasis Be Here Now. I think this may have been an eBay pickup from me back in the day. I've got Oasis's first 4 studio albums on Minidisc, plus their Master Plan B-Sides compilation and Familiar to Millions double live album. This is the one that sort of, when I'm looking for Minidisc on Discogs and eBay, really, they're the only 2 places worth looking for the format. This is the one I see very, very rarely. And although I don't think I paid an absolute fortune for this, I don't think it was exactly cheap either. Be Here Now, Oasis's 3rd album. A lot of people criticised it at the time. I always laugh at the fact that Q magazine, right before it was about to come out, had got an advance copy and they gave it 5 stars because they were just basically all into Oasis. And then sort of a year later they did another review and, I don't know, cut that score in half. I think this is a bit of a maligned album, really. Yeah, it's not going to be as iconic as Definitely Maybe or What's the Story, Morning Glory. It's very overproduced. It's very self-indulgent. I mean, everyone calls this Oasis's cocaine album, given that they were probably taking loads of cocaine before. That can only suggest the amount they were taking by the time they made this. But I think this is quite an underrated album, really. My favourite tracks on here, My Big Mouth, I've always liked. Stand By Me, which was the 2nd single. Don't Go Away, which was a single only in Japan. I've always loved that. Even All Around the World, which a lot of people thought was a bit of an overblown single. It lasts for about 8 minutes, and the video was a little bit silly as well. It was kind of trying to pay homage to the Beatles. Yeah, I think there's way more good stuff than bad on this, and you know, I'm delighted that I've got it on MD, certainly. But that's my pick number 4, Be Here Now by Oasis, celebrating 25 years of being released this year. Pick number 5, and the 3rd 7-inch single I'm showing you, is one that you can barely class it as music. It's something, and I was doing a lot of videos about this artist for a while because I was just building up my collection of her work, and I ordered a lot of stuff of hers, mostly on CD, but a bit of vinyl thrown in as well on Bandcamp. There again, she's kind of similar to the Cuban boys in a way, not from musical similarities, but for the fact that she's someone who was championed by John Peel. That was more in the early noughties, but Peel was probably playing her in the late 90s, because she has been going since about 1996, I think. I'm talking about Vicky Bennett, aka People Like Us, and this is her 2-track single with Ergo Phizmiz, Moon and Magic. And this is just basically the audio rip from her Keystone Cut-Ups DVD, which was kind of like one of her AV performances. I've just remembered that this sleeve isn't particularly very sticky, but that doesn't matter. Beautiful centre label, and a nice translucent blue disc as well. So it's a double A side, side A Moon, side double A Magic, and it's a collaboration with another cut-up artist, Ergo Phizmiz. So yeah, for those who don't know, Vicky Bennett, or People Like Us, is cut-up artist Musique Concrète. Is that how you say it in I'm embarrassing myself with the French again, aren't I? Avant retard, which probably isn't the most politically correct term, but that is something that used to be called this style of audio, because you can't really call it music, really. I think one of her albums was called that as well, that I've got. I mean, this is going to be really rare. I don't know how many copies this was limited to, I can't see a number or anything. Some of these get individually numbered. I've definitely got individually numbered People Like Us discs in my collection, but I just thought I'd show this one in particular because I just like the blue disc and the centre label and everything. If you're interested in hearing something that's a bit more different, and also heard AV work and concerts, if you can call them live events, they're almost like art exhibits really. They're well worth checking out, and I've done videos about Vicky Bennett and People Like Us before, so check back in my music collecting playlist. But there we are, that's going to be one I doubt anyone else has got who may even come close to watching this or any other of the TC contest entries. It's Moon Magic by People Like Us and Ergo Physmis. The third Minidisc album to show you is one that I chose to show because, yeah, it's rare, and like a lot of pre-recorded Minidisc, you know, I think it's safe to say the majority of it would be classed as at least fairly obscure here in 2022. But this is from one of my favourite bands, and it's one that I know is the only Minidisc that was released by this band, and it's Saint Etienne's second album, So Tough. I think it's their second album, was it the third? No, I think it was the second. 1993, I think this came out. It was a Heavenly Records release. Also, Creation had something to do with it because Saint Etienne was also involved with Creation Records. That's a nice link to Oasis there. Brilliant album, this. I mean, I've got all Saint Etienne's other work, or the very vast majority of it, on vinyl because they were a band I decided I'm going to start collecting more once I'd got back into vinyl, and over the past couple of years or so I really beefed up my Saint Etienne collection. Like I say, as with People Like Us and, you know, no doubt other artists that I'm going to show here, I've done videos on them before. Everything that I've talked about remains in my music collecting playlist. But yeah, just a bit of a butcher's at the Minidisc here. Nothing really to see. If you've seen one Minidisc, you've seen them all, because they all came in this standard black shell. But it does have proper on-shell print in there, and a pretty good quality sticker on the front of the Minidisc. And it's just a great album. The big single off here was You're in a Bad Way, which I remember hearing for the first time when I was listening to the UK Top 40 in the early 90s. I was vaguely familiar with Saint Etienne already, but I heard that and it was like, yeah, this is different, because I thought Saint Etienne were like an alternative dance band, and they are, but they do a lot of this sort of 60s infused soul pop, you know, it's kind of Phil Spector style, very sort of faux nostalgic kind of work. And You're in a Bad Way, especially with its lyrics, so it references Bruce Forsyth, the Generation Game and everything. It really harks back to a different age. And I like the fact there's some like non-music tracks on here that are just sort of like snippets from like kind of field recordings of people from decades ago, really. Hobart Paving's another song on here that I absolutely love. That Hobart Paving is just a beautiful track, and I think this version here on the So Tough album is probably the best one that there is, so I would recommend that you check that out. But there we are, there's So Tough by Saint Etienne. The penultimate 7-inch single is one from an act who long-time viewers of this channel will probably be sick of me mentioning him now, because I just rave over him every time I buy something of his, and I've tried to keep my collection for this artist up to date. I know there's certainly one 12-inch single that's out there that I need to get my hands on, and there might even be a couple of even rarer items, but I just love this guy's work so much. I'm talking about Picture Plane. And this is his, it's actually a split single. It's Picture Plane and Wicker Phase Springs Eternal with Sex Trigger, Burn in Heaven, and track 2 on here is Low Key. That might be, I can never remember. I think track 1's Picture Plane, track 2 is Wicker Phase Springs Eternal. When I've bought stuff of Picture Planes on Bandcamp, I often send stickers, and I can't really show you this sticker because it's quite graphic. But I decided to shove that in the record sleeve. But here again, another coloured disc here. It's just a coincidence, really. I forgot this was even coloured disc, but it's sort of like a salmon pink colour. I think Sex Trigger was on, which album would it have been? Possibly The Physical. Picture Plane stuff I really love. His genre is what he would call, and his fans would call, witch house, which is basically kind of like a really sort of grungy, almost dirty kind of dance music with supernatural themes and conspiratorial kind of themes to it as well. All done sort of, you know, quite on the cheap, but its production always sounds absolutely amazing to me. And he's an artist who just never quite broke through to the mainstream, which I kind of like in a way, because it means it's for the few of us rather than the many. But, you know, he's someone I think really deserved to be much bigger than what he is. This is a single that will be from, God, at least 10 years ago now, probably more, on his own Alien Body label. I just think Picture Plane's brilliant. I've done videos about him, bored people about him, and I've shown audio and video clips of his work as well. But I would recommend that you go on YouTube or whatever streaming service you use and check out Picture Plane for yourself. And of course Bandcamp, because a lot of his work is available there digitally, and as I know myself, as I've bought stuff of his on there, you can get some physical items of his still on Bandcamp as well. Picture Plane with Sex Trigger, Burn in Heaven. The next to the last mini disc is from a band who I really love, and there again, they're a band who, if you're in the VC, you've really got to own at least one album by this band, and given they only really did one proper official studio album, usually it's going to be Nevermind the Bollocks. That's not what I'm going to show you, but of course it is the Sex Pistols, and this is their compilation, Kiss This, on MD. I believe this came out 1992. There again, this was one I was looking for absolutely ages. I had it in my wants list on Discogs. Suddenly it came up randomly one day. I thought, I'm not going to leave that sitting around too long for someone else to buy. I'm going to get this. I do like Kiss This because it does have the whole of Nevermind the Bollocks on it, as well as some of their other stuff that came afterwards, you know, stuff from like the Great Rock and Roll Swindle and what have you. Not in the greatest condition, this minidisc case. You can now buy replacement minidisc cases. Techmoan did a video about them. These display alright, even when they're all sort of cracked up and broken off at the hinges like this one is, so I don't tend to worry too much. But maybe one day I will get some replacement cases just to kind of neaten some of these old ones up, because this one obviously has certainly seen better days. Great stuff here. Kiss This from Sex Pistols. I think it's the only Sex Pistols album of any sort that's ever come out on minidisc. Therefore it's obscure and a rarity as far as I'm concerned. You all know what Sex Pistols did. They've got all the big hits on here. Everything from Nevermind the Bollocks, and then we've got stuff like Anarchy in the UK, God Save the Queen, Pretty Vacant, No Fun, I'm Not Your Stepping Stone, which is a cover of the Monkees track. For me, that's probably just about enough Sex Pistols I need, even though I do really like the band. The final 7-inch single is one, and I was debating which one from this act that I was going to show. This is an act that I show in a lot of these contest entries, and I've shown this disc not too long ago in a haul video where I was buying plenty of records by the same artist. I'm talking about Rammstein with America, and the reason I chose this one above any of the other Rammstein singles that I've shown on the channel recently is because I know this one was expensive, and this one, I mean, I doubt that there's many, if any, people in the VC have actually got this same single that I hold in my hand here now. But America by Rammstein, side 1 obviously America, side 2 is, I think it's the original Wildavine. It says it's an exclusive track on side 2, but I don't know how they can say that, because Wildavine came out as a B-side for an earlier single many years before this. Well, I don't know. I think this is just standard black vinyl here. Yes, it is. Given that this was expensive, as a lot of Rammstein has proved to be expensive, as I've really filled some holes in my collection there over the past few months, I figured that would make it certainly a rarity. I do really enjoy the single America. It's not my very favourite Rammstein single. It might even struggle to break the top 10, but I'm a massive, massive fan of the band. You'll often see me wearing a Rammstein t-shirt, as you are right now, in videos. I had to really include the 6 lads from Berlin in this particular contest entry. And the final item, the final musical release, is a minidisc, the final minidisc, and it's the only album on minidisc from this band that I own, because if you look for this band on Discogs and then you filter your search so that you're looking for minidiscs, you'll see just how ridiculous the prices are. But this was something I picked up on eBay, and I know it wasn't cheap. I think probably paid close to £60 for it, but believe it or not, that was probably about half what it normally goes for. This is the Division Bell by Pink Floyd, And obviously this was an album that was out in 1994. Up until very recently, it was only Pink Floyd I had in my collection. My father was a massive fan. They were probably his favourite band. I mean, he liked a lot of stuff, certainly when I was growing up and before I was born. You know, he was well into Dylan. He was a big Led Zeppelin fan. You know, he was quite into the Beatles. I don't think he was sort of all in on them like I am now. But Pink Floyd was certainly like way up there, definitely in his top 3 favourite acts, probably number 1 to be honest, as he would rave over Floyd more than any others, I think, really. Minidisc was never a massively popular format here in the UK. It did alright for a little bit, but that's about it. But if you've got it, then, you know, congratulations, you either paid a sensible price for it, or you probably paid over the odds for it. But it's a great album nonetheless, and that completes all of my music releases here for TC Kirkham's contest entry. So please go and show him some support, and I want to thank you for watching this video. Thank you to TC for running the contest. Had a lot of fun showing some of these rarities and obscure releases of mine. If you've got any of them, or you have seen them around and that makes them perhaps not as obscure as I thought they would be, then let me know in the comments. But I'm certain there's got to be quite a few here that nobody else has got. I mean, that Stone Roses Minidisc, you know, I don't even know how many copies of that there are in the world. If it's more than double figures, I would be amazed, to be honest. Thank you all. Special thanks go, as they always do, to my patrons and my amazing subscribers. Also, further on down the description text box, after you've checked out the Kirkham report and his contest announcement, of course, and given him a sub, there's my usual Patreon link, Facebook group link, and link for contents insurance as well. I'm going to go now. Might stick one of these singles or albums on. Probably an album, because it lasts longer. A single, even though a couple of these are 4-track EPs, as you know. But you can't really sit down and relax for too long before you're having to jump up and turn the side over or turn your turntable off or whatever. And do please join me again for my next Vinyl Community contest entry video. Cheers, everyone. See ya!